Ephram King.
Good evening, President Rice and members of the council. Can you hear me?
Mr. Hanson, if you could turn up. There you go.
Okay. My name is Ephram King. I've lived as a resident in Montgomery County for about 30 years. Most of that time I've worked for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency on water quality issues and management and policy. Most recently in that capacity I was director of the Office of Science and Technology and in charge of, as a national program manager, of water quality criteria and standards and implementation. With that as background, as a private citizen, I do not represent EPA. I'm retired. I reviewed the planning board record and was delighted to be able to come and testify. My bottom technical line is that their limited amendment recommendation to this group represents a policy judgment but is not supported by the underlying science and technical analysis that that record contains. And what I'd like to do is walk through a few points with you, which is the impact on the watershed standard of review. I'd like to talk a little bit about environmental site design, and finally, Little Seneca. I think some people are missing a key point on Little Seneca, and when that point comes home to roost, it'll be too late, and we can talk about that. So as to impacts, both the underlying environmental analysis as well as even the submission to this group concedes that there are negative impacts as a result of the limited amendment. The underlying analysis makes it clear that those impacts will be ongoing and will lead to deterioration of the watershed and ultimately non-compliance with state water quality standards and a failure to maintain one of the last remaining high-quality reference streams in the county. As to standard of review, the board submission basically seems to confuse comparisons with the 1994 master plan and whether or not their proposal is better or worse as a substitute for an evaluation of environmental impacts. That is not correct. The evaluation for environmental impact should be done in terms of water quality and in terms of state standards, and on that basis it seems to me there's sufficient grounds for substantial concern. In face of that, what the board planning staff analysis suggests is a heavy reliance on environmental site design, and yet the underlying analysis contains a fairly remarkably forthright and alarming discussion of the shortcomings of environmental design when applied at a watershed scale. And those shortcomings then appear to be remedied under the analysis by suggesting that some additional steps be taken to be sure that environmental quality is maintained. Those steps include things like better focusing, better minimization, better prioritization, and when all else fails, restore the watershed. That probably won't do it. As to Little Seneca Reservoir, it's important to understand that not only are the suspended solids an issue, but also nitrogen and phosphorus pollution lead directly to the development of harmful algal blooms. And you will see those blooms precisely at the time that you want to use the reservoir at high temperature and low flow drought conditions. The recommendations, if I may, Mr. President, very briefly, is that you not proceed until you conduct a full evaluation of Little Seneca, and that you go back and ask the planning board to come up with a plan that they believe will meet both the water quality standards as well as a reasonable development option. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. King.